It's time for the Christmas special video. What if Santa was actually real? What if Santa's workshop and his entire place was actually an internationally recognized state? There is actually a place in Alaska called North Pole, which again, a lot of people do is send Christmas presents to. But what if Santa existed? Where would his country be? We know we will be somewhere in the Arctic. Yeah, we have a few candidates. First is Greenland. Greenland makes a lot of sense as, typically it's the most known of the countries in the North Pole. But also, Santa did originate in Europe, which means he could be from Svalbard or one of these Russian islands, as these islands are very close to the North Pole. I think Santa being in Svalbard makes a lot of sense. It's very close to Europe, which is where Santa came from, war-wise. And some people will say Santa came from America, but Santa would have probably came from Europe. So this country up here, as of 2024, will be recognized as Santa's workshop, or basically whatever Santa wants to call his country. So, what would the population will be mostly of elves, and the main animals on the island, besides polar bears, would be reindeer. Because of course polar bears already live on the island, they will exist as well. But the elves and reindeer will basically exist to create presents for kids around the world. And considering the fact that Santa Claus is an internationally recognized person, and internationally, and also is the king of the wherever Santa Claus's country. He is the de facto ruler of this area. Also, Svalbard is not a part of Norway anymore. Norway does not have any sovereignty over Svalbard anymore. As well, Santa Claus and Santa's kingdom will be the 194th country in the world. The demographics of Santa's country will be mostly elves, as basically those are the people who work for Santa. Santa would likely have very, very strict immigration policy, as basically most to keep with the Christmas tradition of, besides Santa and Miss Claus, most of the people who live in the Santa country are elves, because those are the people who work as well. Santa's capital will be around here, which is where he lives. Here. And then there'll be tons of suburbs and smaller cities scattered across Svalbard as well. Svalbard's population will be much higher, as elves are much more resistant to cold weather than normal people, which would make a lot of sense, as they are more adapted for the cold, very similar to Russians. Again, you could also make the case for Santa being from a Russian island, as these islands are also pretty big and could house millions of people. But now we get to the logistics thing. How does Santa deliver the presents? Well, Santa, in this world, would actually hire foreign volunteers to help deliver the presents. This would be a one-in-a-year only thing, as it only happens between Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, but Santa himself cannot deliver to all of the Christians in the world. And yes, Santa really only delivers towards Western nations and Christians. Basically, anyone who celebrates Christmas and believes in Santa, and, well, again, in this timeline, Santa exists, so anyone who basically celebrates Christmas can get presents from Santa as well. Also because the internet exists, and also Santa will likely have AI processing, most likely, to sort out this, as well. So Santa would likely use an AI to basically, create, so people can send in the lists as well. Also, the naughty and nice list will also be done by computers. In the olden times, it used to be done by handwriting. It would be much more difficult as well, but with computers and social media, the naughty list will be very easy to create based off how people act on the internet. Again, people are like, how can Santa judge who's naughty or nice? Well, the internet exists as well. The only problem is Santa sort of does people without the internet, as there's still people, millions in sub-Saharan Africa, and like the Amish, who do not have access to the internet. So they'll still have to find the old ways of figuring out who's a naughty or nice person as well. But the internet makes like Europe and the Americas and of course Latin America much easier, as all those countries mostly celebrate Christmas, with the exception of maybe like Albania and Kosovo, which celebrate Muslim holidays. Days. But yeah, Santa would be on the world stage. But I think Santa will kind of be like the King of England or the Pope. It'll be I think that of course Santa will eventually get old and they'll of course always have the right like kind of like the King of England or the Queen of England or the King of Norway or basically any sort of royal ruler like the Pope or of course the kings of the Arabian Peninsula. Every once in a while a new Santa is coronated. This makes a lot of sense as humans do not live forever. Yes, in fiction, Santa could be over 1,000 years old. And alright, but again, in this world, and like in the movie Santa Claus, Santa could get injured, hurt, and yeah. Eventually, every once in a while, a new Santa is sworn in as the leader of the Santa country. And the same thing will happen if something happens to Miss Claus as well. And also, so with the help of the forward forward tiers, every Christmas, Santa is able to deliver presents. Kind of like how the Pope gets the people to defend the Vatican City. Santa would have a military of mostly elves as well. Excuse me. Santa would always be protected by countries of the United States and Russia, as they know how important Santa is to the world. So no hostile countries attack this country. Santa Claus is mostly neutral on many foreign affairs, only taking a stance when things get too bad, like of the war in Ukraine, where Santa denounced Russia. Or denounced Israel over the whole Palestine thing, as Santa does not support war and supports love and joy instead, as well. But either way, Santa will still not stop delivering to people of those countries, as that's his job. But how does foreign volunteers from all around the world help Santa? Well, Santa's sleigh can only go to so many houses. So that's why Santa gets help from other companies, such as Amazon and delivery companies to help him. This obviously makes the most amount of sense, as of course, Santa will be able to use the help of these companies to make sure everyone's presents are delivered at time or also before Christmas. Again, Santa does not exactly have to deliver presents between Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Of course, some can come in, all around December, but as well. Yeah. And in this world, Santa is a very well respected figure around the world. No one talks, and yeah, anyone who talks ill will of Santa is already on the naughty list because you talked ill will of Santa. You were asking for it. And also, Santa very rarely makes endorsements of any political candidate. There might be some parody accounts that exist on social media that will, but the real Santa, is an international politician. He's gonna work with whoever the leader is of that country, whether if he likes him or not, or her, but whether he likes the person or not, he has to work with them. Which means, yes, he had to work with Hitler and Mussolini when they were around, and also had to work with Stalin and other very anti-Christian leaders like Mao and the Communist Party of China. Also, Christianity in this timeline will be much less, will be more common in this world. Atheism will not be too popular, as basically if you are an atheist, you're basically rejecting Christmas and you're rejecting Santa Claus. A lot of kids would be more Christian, as basically Santa is seen as a faith figure, for Christians. Kind of like, the most important figures, Jesus and God. Santa will be up there on one of the top ones. He'll be kind of like the Pope, a symbolic figure for Christian. And especially Europe, Christianity will be much more bigger. And even in America and Canada as well. And of course, Latin America will be very Christian as well. And of course, a lot of sub-Saharan Africa will be too. Especially around these lines here. And of course, Australia will still be majority Christian. And maybe even places like Korea may become majority Christian as well. The only foe Santa really has to face is Communist China, as Communist China represses Christianity. And unlike in our timeline, there will be massive international outcry, as there has never been a secularization, and secular countries are not really treated as fairly as they are in this timeline. Yes, many countries still practice the freedom of religion, but because of Santa, and if you speak ill will of Christians or Christianity, there is, of course, massive outrage. For example, any attacks, in Nigeria, spark massive international outcry from the international community, and countries even get sanctioned for attacking Christians. Kind of similar how Muslim countries go against countries that are Islamophobic. Christianophobic is another thing that is basically created to basically say, hey, you can't attack Christians. What about all the non-Christian countries in the world? Well, if a country doesn't celebrate Christmas, Santa does not really visit them. And of course, Santa respects that. And of course, in the future, a similar person to Santa will basically, like for example, the Muslim version of Santa, very similar tradition will likely emerge in the Islamic world, the second biggest religion, and of course maybe even the Hindu world, as these countries would want to basically spread love and joy to their children and even copy what happens in the West. Which means we might see a Islamic and Hindu Santa as well, which deliver to mostly Hindus and Muslims around the world. I think this world will be much more happy, and there may be less division in this world overall. So really, if you think about it, Santa would make this world more happy, as well. So, what do you think if Santa existed and had his own country, and of course had his own kingdom in the North Pole? I wonder what people would think about this in the comment section below. And of course, I made this for Christmas because obviously in this world Santa doesn't exist. He was basically made up as basically the figurehead of Christmas. But of course, in the alternate timeline, yes, he would 100% exist and be a real person, and he would probably hold similar status to the Pope. I'm actually surprised that this hasn't happened in our timeline, considering the fact that the Pope exists and he is basically the figurehead for, the Catholic Church. And of course, even Muslims are about to have their own city-state as well, but we don't have a figurehead to represent all Christians. And yeah, I think Santa could be a pretty good candidate to represent all Christians worldwide. And of course, maybe in Western countries, people will finally ditch the rise of atheism and go back to Christianity, as basically atheists do not celebrate Christmas, mostly, as well. And that's about this video here, and goodbye.